It's time again for my top 10 movies of the year. As always, this list is completely fluid and subject to change as soon as I finish recording this video. Of the 44,019 movies released in 2024, I have seen 64, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's equivalent to seeing about 5 new movies every single month. And I don't watch trailers because I feel like they give too much of the movie away, but based on who is involved with the movie and based on the buzz around the movie, there are several 2024 films I have yet to see that could potentially break into my top 10. And those movies are Smile 2, Juror Number 2, A Real Pain, The Brutalist, September 5th, Problemista, Night Bitch, A Complete Unknown, and Nosferatu. To start, let's look back at my top 10 movies of 2023 as of January 1st, 2024. That list has changed quite a bit as I have seen additional movies and rewatched stuff from 2023 that have changed rankings as well. The biggest change is that Godzilla Minus One overtook the number 1 spot from the movie Missing, which has dropped a few places. I still say that Missing is a great movie that people just aren't talking about, but Godzilla wowed me just a little bit more. And now, without further ado, here are my top 10 movies of 2024. There is no denying that Mad Max Fury Road is one of the greatest action films ever made, and it did not need a prequel. But we got a prequel, and it's more of the same balls-to-the-wall action full of insane cars, monstrous humanoid creatures, and lots of dirt and metal. Furiosa should have been a much bigger hit than it was. Quality-wise, it is every bit as good as Fury Road. There seems to be a bit more CGI here, which I didn't love, but the action was bigger, the cars were more insane, and the characters were more evil, and we got a great protagonist in Furiosa. If you like Mad Max Fury Road, you're gonna like Furiosa. This one snuck up on me. It's a stop-motion claymation movie that feels and looks like something Tim Burton would have created. Yet I found it to be more entertaining and thought-provoking than about 75% of the stuff that Tim Burton has actually created. The story follows a set of twins who were separated in their youth as they try to cope with the unfair life that they have been dealt. Most of the story follows hoarder Grace, who loves snails. The movie is just one horrible thing after another that just keeps happening to Grace. And while she is so full of sadness, the movie never really feels like a downer. It's very sweet and offers unique perspectives on life and is surprisingly clever and funny. I did not expect to like this one nearly as much as I did, and I keep going back and thinking about it. This was an interesting take on the oversaturated found footage film genre. The story revolves around a fictional 1970s late-night talk show where the devil makes a surprise appearance during Sweeps Week. As the audience, we are watching the episode unfold in real time, and during the commercial breaks, we get to go behind the scenes of the show to see what's happening when the camera isn't rolling. Everything was so well executed, the host felt like a real host of a show from that era. The sets, the costumes, the audience, and the guests all felt period appropriate, and of course, the movie was creepy and unsettling. It is one of the best and most original horror films of 2024. I've always been just a casual fan of Saturday Night Live. I've seen all the famous skits and I know all the classic cast, but it wasn't something that I usually sat down as appointment viewing every Saturday night. Even so, I found this fictional retelling of the first night of the show way back in 1975 completely thrilling. The movie is very well directed. It is just 90 minutes of orchestrated and organized chaos. But what makes the movie so special is the cast. Each person hired to play the iconic cast member from the original SNL is spot on in mannerisms, looks, and in voice. The movie is a whirlwind and captures what it must be like to be under the stress of staging a live show when all the people involved are full of drugs, alcohol, and have big personalities. I was completely mesmerized from the very first frame watching these unlikely friends, cat, capybara, lemur, dog, and bird, interact with each other. There were a lot of great animated movies in 2024, and I kept changing my mind which was the best until I saw Flow, and then it became clear that it is heads and tails the best animated movie of 2024. The animation is breathtaking and looks both real and like an oil painting. The movie is about a group of animals who must work together to overcome a deadly flood after all humans have seemingly disappeared. Each animal has a unique and charming personality, and they all act like real animals. Flow is 80 minutes long, and there's not a single line of dialogue. There's no human character, and no character has a name, and I didn't miss any of that. I was just glued to the screen. Flow is enjoyable on the surface for audiences of all ages, but those wanting a little bit more, there is quite a bit of symbolism just under the surface as well. You know that diner scene in Pulp Fiction where the tension builds and builds and you're just waiting for Samuel L. Jackson to lay down the law? Last Stop in Yuma County is basically a movie-length version of that scene, set in a gas station slash diner in the middle of the desert, where the gas station's out of gas and the kitchen in the diner is closed. Oh, and the air conditioning is broken. Oh, and there's some bank robbers that just happen to be there as well. This is the perfect setup for a pressure cooker of a movie. Each time the bell dings above the door, a new personality enters and shakes things up. They get more complicated. The movie stars Jim Cummings, who is one of my favorite actors, writers, and directors working today. He is charming, but brings this unpredictable, chaotic energy to everything that he does, and it's no different in Last Stop in Yuma County. Every scene brought some new and unexpected twist. This is just a fun, single-location thriller full of unexpected, jaw-dropping moments. If anyone other than Edward Berger directed this, I don't think that it would have been a movie that I loved so much. From a technical perspective, I don't think Conclave could have been any better. The cinematography and score added so much to this well-written story about the catty, double-crossing, egomaniacal men of God who were tasked with selecting a new pope. The dialogue was always front and center, with each word rattling with authority as these men discuss why they should be the next pope. The acting is stellar, and with each new revelation, it had me second-guessing on who I thought should be the next pope. I've heard a lot of people complaining about how the movie ended, but I think it was the perfect ending to an already excellent movie. I did not have a PG religious thriller about the pope selection process on my bingo card this year, but I've seen it twice already, and I can't quit recommending it. Hugh Grant as a sinister yet charming villain was something that I didn't know that I needed. I found his character to be smart and so evil. And as I was watching, I was trying to put myself in his victim's shoes and outwit him, and I just couldn't do it. He was always one step ahead. While the movie ends up following typical horror movie tropes and story beats, I found the dialogue to be excellent and very thought-provoking. While the overall premise is just trying to dismantle religious believers, I thought it did an excellent job of giving nearly equal footing to the logic versus religion argument. There were a lot of good horror films in 2024. This was the best one. Now, it had its fair share of gross horror movie stuff, but it was really the dialogue that stole the show. John M. Chu took the already stellar stage production and turned it up a notch. Something about seeing millions of real flowers and actual building facades instead of CGI added so much to my enjoyment of this movie. Wicked is such a crowd pleaser, and it is now creating multiple generations of new fans. Even at nearly 3 hours long, I was never bored. The story flew by and was interesting the entire way through. The songs were every bit as good as the Broadway cast recording, at least in my uneducated opinion, and both Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were perfect in their roles. I found the climactic scene to be the most emotionally impactful of the entire year, and it isn't often that a blockbuster with over-the-top positive reviews lives up to the hype. Somehow Wicked surpassed the high expectations that I had set for it, and it ended up being one of my favorite movie watching experiences of the entire year. There were a lot of other really good movies that I saw that are worth checking out that I'm just going to mention by name here. Anora, Inside Out 2, The Wild Robot, Oddity, A Different Man, Twisters, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. I'm not sure how a black and white 19th century period piece with no dialogue and the most amateur costumes and special effects became my favorite movie of 2024. This is the movie that I have recommended the most because of how off the wall it is. It is becoming more rare for a movie to be so entertaining that you just want to tell everybody you know that they have to watch it. Now, I'm not alone. People love Hundreds of Beavers, yet it somehow has yet to become a household name. Without a doubt, this is the funniest and most clever movie of the year. The corny and obvious jokes keep building and getting funnier and more original as the movie progresses. You cannot explain Hundreds of Beavers to someone. The trailer doesn't do it justice. You have to experience it in its entirety. The first time I watched it, it took several minutes for me to get into the flow of the jokes, but once that man began drinking out of the river and the camera zoomed out to show what he was really drinking, I was completely hooked. I was on board with whatever was coming next. The speed at which the jokes come is insane. There may be more jokes in this than there are in Airplane or the Naked Gun movies. And this isn't a movie with a social message. There isn't a lesson to learn. It is just here to entertain, and entertain it does. This is the most original and creative movie of 2024, and maybe of the entire 21st century. There is nothing else like Hundreds of Beavers, and that is why it is my favorite movie of 2024.